Now, the new Renters' Rights Bill includes sweeping reforms that will result in a dramatic shift in the private rental landscape for both landlords and agents. I'm Darren Cope, owner of Cope & Co, a specialist letting agent based in Derby. Now, I've been in the lettings industry for over 25 years and I've seen a lot of new legislation introduced in that time. And I can safely say that this bill is definitely going to be the biggest and boldest of them all. Now, this is the first in a series of videos in which I look at the bill in more detail. I'll be discussing what changes and reforms are being introduced, what practical terms that means for landlords, and as a letting agent, what we can do to help landlords navigate the bill as easily and as stress-free as possible. So, why a series of videos? Well, the bill is bringing in a lot of changes. Some can be looked at and explained quicker than others. And if you're anything like me, your attention span nowadays is not what it used to be. So breaking this down into bite-sized pieces that you can access at your convenience, I think is a much better than a 2-hour video with information overload. So in part one, I'm simply going to highlight the major changes that the Renters' Rights Bill is bringing in, and then I'll look at each section in a separate video. Okay, let's get started. Firstly, the bill will abolish Section 21 evictions and move to a simpler tenancy structure where all tenancies are effectively periodic. Therefore, the bill will bring to an end fixed-term tenancies, which traditionally provided landlords with predictable cash flow and allowed for regular reviews of tenancy terms. Instead, tenancies will pretty much default to open-ended, indefinite agreements, which will simply require 2 months written notice from a tenant to end the tenancy. Now, this notice can be given at any time from the start of the tenancy. Now, this will take place in one stage. When the bill comes into law, all fixed-term tenancies in England will automatically convert to periodic tenancies, and all new tenancies will essentially be periodic from the start of the tenancy. It's a one-hit, effectively. Now, there are also plenty of updates and new grounds for possession, which, following the end of the accelerated Section 21 process, will all come under the more lengthy Section 8 process. Now, some of these are very complicated and will only be used once in a blue moon. However, some are going to be very commonly used, and it'll be these that will feature in the other videos. Now, talking of grounds for possession, one of the major updates is when a landlord wishes to either sell the property, move in themselves, or move a family member in. Now, there's a new 12-month protected period which will be introduced at the start of a tenancy. Now, during that period, landlords cannot evict tenants in order to sell or move back into the property, or indeed move a family member back into the property. A 4-month notice period will be required before possession proceedings can even begin. There's also a major update to the grounds for possession regarding arrears. Rules will be tightened to protect tenants who fall into arrears, increasing the mandatory threshold for eviction from 2 months to 3 months, and extending the notice period from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. Now, the ability to increase rents is also changing. Once a year, landlords will be able to increase rents up to the market rate by issuing a Section 13 notice, which sets out the new rent and gives at least 2 months' notice before it takes effect. Rent increases by any other means, such as rent review clauses in the contract, will not be permitted. The only way to do it is once a year to market rent with a Section 13. There'll also be some major changes to the capacity for agents and landlords to take rents in advance from a tenant, i.e. more than 1 month's rent at the start of a tenancy. The bill will also introduce a new private rented sector landlord ombudsman, mouthful, that provides a complaint resolution service for tenants, and joining the scheme will be mandatory for every landlord. Now, agents are also by law obliged to be a member of an ombudsman. However, this is a separate thing altogether. Now, there'll also be a new private rented sector database on which both landlord and property details will need to be registered before a property is even marketed for let. Again, this is mandatory for landlords to join. Rules on pets will change to give tenants strengthened rights to request a pet in the property, which the landlord must consider and cannot unreasonably refuse. However, to support this, landlords will be able to require pet insurance to be taken out by the tenant to cover potential damage to the property. The bill will also apply the Decent Homes Standard, which is currently used in social housing, and that will be extended to the private rental sector. It'll set out requirements for properties and will provide local councils with effective and proportionate enforcement powers if there is deemed to be anything that doesn't agree to the Decent Homes Standard. Additionally, AWAB's law, which will be applied to the rental sector, that's also currently just in the social housing. And that sets clear legal expectations about timeframes in which landlords must take action to make homes safe where they contain serious hazards. It will be illegal under the bill for landlords and agents to discriminate against prospective tenants in receipt of benefits or with children. Landlords and agents will obviously continue to have the final say on who they let their property to, but all prospective tenants should be considered on an individual basis. Now, the bill will also end the practice of rental bidding by banning landlords and agents from asking for or even accepting offers above the marketed rent, above the advertised rent. It will be illegal to accept offers made above that rent, the rent that has been effectively advertised. The bill will strengthen local authority enforcement by expanding civil penalties, including a package of investigatory powers and bringing in a new requirement for local authorities to report on enforcement activity. Now, the fines and penalties are severe, and we'll look at each aspect of that in each section of the bill in the other videos. On fines and penalties, the bill will also strengthen rent repayment orders by extending them to superior landlords, doubling the maximal penalty, and ensuring that repeat offenders repay the maximum amount possible. Now, just to advise, a rent repayment order is a mechanism which currently a landlord who has committed an offence can be ordered to repay an amount of rent to the tenant or local authority. The maximum amount of rent a landlord can be ordered to pay will double from 12 months to 24 months. So, there you have it, a whistle-stop tour of the joys of the upcoming Renters' Rights Bill. Now, the government are fast-tracking the bill through the necessary channels, becoming law at a speed never seen before, and it is expected that the bill will become law around spring in this year, spring 2025. Now, I know on the face of it, the new legislation looks very daunting. However, with proper preparation and a good understanding of what the bill contains, I still think together we can navigate a way through it that can be beneficial for landlords. Now, this video and all the other Renters' Rights Bill videos can be accessed at any time by visiting rentersrightsbill.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the other videos.